Hi, this is Frank Ippolito. Today we're going to be playing with blood. We're going to make some from things you can get at a local grocery store. We're going to make some from dry powders that you can add to water. So you could take it on location, or you could make tons and tons of it really easily. So let's get started. Making your own blood. There's a couple different ways you can go about it. Most people will start with Karos syrup, which is stuff you can get at a grocery store. And then you want to get red food coloring. And out here on the West Coast, they have Smart and Final, and this happens to be the only size that was at the store today. So I would assume that all the rest of the small bottles of red were taken by other makeup artists. This is a double strength red food coloring. And then the other thing that I really like is Hershey's syrup to add to the blood. It adds a little bit of opacity and it darkens up the blood and makes it taste good if the actors have to put it in their mouth. If you want to get a little bit more technical with making blood, there's this stuff called methicellulose. This was bought from Tri-S a million years ago before they closed, but you can get this stuff from most of the makeup supply stores or Monster Makers or any of those people. And then there's also red pigments. This is a DNC Red Lake that Mike Davey repackages. And then this is an FDNC Red number 40 from Monster Makers. It's just a powdered pigment. So we'll be mixing that in when we do the Melacel blood. Makeup also has a blue dye adjuster that helps when you're making blood with these pigments. It'll get a little bit darker blue color to it. It's always nice to have some gloves on when you're making blood because the red can get around and then you have stained up fingers. So I like to keep a lot of latex gloves around when I use blood. Also have various stir sticks and cups, paper towels and wet wipes. Need to have these things around. We'll make some Karos syrup blood first. Usually when I do bloods like this, I typically kind of eyeball stuff. I'm sure that you could come up with some measurements, but for the sake of this little project, we'll just pour it out by eye. So we'll start off with about that much. So this isn't too bad as far as just making red bloody stuff, but this is still too translucent and it's a little too orangey for my taste. So this is where I'll come into the chocolate syrup. We'll just squirt some in and see how it goes. I just did a movie back in December. It was the first horror feature that Danny DeVito directed, and we made about 40 gallons of blood this exact way, just dumping a full thing of red and a full thing of chocolate and just going to town. And you see how this has a little bit more darkness to it, a little bit more opacity. It's not so clear. I think that looks decent. Yeah, that looks pretty bloody to me. So there you go. That's how to make blood from stuff you can find at the local grocery store. The next kind of blood we're going to make is Melacel blood. So what we want to do is we want to weigh out some Melacel. So we'll put 12 grams of this in. So 10, 2. Making blood with Melacel like this is really good if you have to like travel somewhere and go on location and make a whole bunch of blood. That way you can take this thickener, which is just a polymer, and just add it to water instead of having to carry liquid gallons of blood. So you just take all these powdered components, put it together when you're there, and then you can make tons and tons of blood. Like this will make about a half gallon, and that was just barely any out of this container. And so we take that 12 grams and we add it to 64 ounces of warm water. The warm helps it disperse a little bit faster. So I'm just kind of sprinkling it in. And the next thing I want to weigh out is my pigment. And I'm going to use this FDNC number 40 from Monster Makers. I'll put about 6 grams of this in. And then I'm also going to put in 4 grams of zinc oxide. I'm just stirring these two up because sometimes it helps to disperse the zinc oxide if it's kind of mixed in with the other powders. So I will take this and start sprinkling that into the Melacel. So this blood is feeling a little bit still translucent to me. In the formula that I gave in the magazine, I gave kind of a range. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more. I want to darken up and make this a little bit deeper of a blood color. So we'll get this back. Basically, I just want to add 2 more grams of this red. And we'll see what the darker end of it is. There you go. This will just give me more red pigment in there so it's not quite so opaque. Also, if you want the blood to be thicker, you can add more Melacel. If you want the blood to be more opaque, you can add more zinc oxide. But because the zinc oxide is white, you have to make sure to add more reds to it so that it doesn't get too pink. Now, this feels a little bit better to me. This is just a little bit deeper version of a fresh blood color. So the next thing I have is this blue dye concentrate from makeup, which is basically an adjuster to help deepen up the blood tone. So we'll just start with a few drops. I'm not sure how much I need because I haven't used this stuff lately. And you can see almost right away this stuff is considerably darker. Just a few drops of that blue pretty much darkens it up pretty quickly. So there you go. That's the Melacel blood.